to me, I couldn't believe a girl could ever be named Frances, because to me it was a boy's name. Well, back to dramatics. I was asked to play the leading role in The Patsy. Some of you may have seen that because it has been played. It's even come over TV. But I decided that I would play that play for Earl. And however, the leading man that played opposite me was Uncle Paul, Earl's brother. And it was, but all the time I was playing this play, it was for Earl. He was out on the road selling roses, and he came home the night I was playing, and I remember so well that I wanted to play so well that night that he'd really be pleased with me. And during the second and third act, he came up behind the stage and asked to take me home. And I really felt that I had succeeded. And I had stepped him several times, and he'd been out on the road selling, and I'd had a letter or two from him. But it was raining that night. Oh, it was raining so hard. And John Matthews, Earl's closest, one of his closest friends, had been out selling with him, and they had a one-seated Ford, and he took me home along with John and his girl Millicent. We sat outside Millicent's home in the rain, and it was in the car in the rain, and it was just pouring, and he asked me that night if I'd go steady with him. So I've always loved rain. I love rain because it brings back wonderful memories. So the playing Patsy paid off, and it has been quite a fun memory as far as dramatics is concerned. I remember I had a part in, I was in the cast, the play at Weber College, and The Lion and the Mouse was the name of that play. And I had the fun of traveling with the cast from Weber College, and we played several places, playing up in Malad and staying overnight. And dramatics has always been a thrill for me too, and brings back happy memories.
Well, you meant that choice. Good-looking, dark-haired young man, Earl B. Cragun. Tell us a little bit more about your courtship, and maybe about Daddy's mission, and the unusual thing that you did that we don't hear about too many days, and that's waiting for a missionary and marrying him.
Well, I decided that Earl should have a mission, and of course he wanted a mission. But we've been talking marriage, and it seemed like it'd be a long 2 years. But he received his call, and he went to England on his mission. And I was one of these few girls that did wait. I was the girl he left behind, and I waited for him. He came home he left on my mom's birthday, the 18th of May, and he returned 2 years later on the 24th of July, and we were married on the 30th of September. I think it was one of the happiest 2 years of my life, because I learned to respect the missionaries, and the letters that came home was almost like he was teaching me the gospel too. And yet we were planning all the time during that time that when he returned, we would be married.
Where were you married?
We were married in the Salt Lake Temple. That brings back another fun memory. That day was a glorious day. Every one of my brothers and sisters, except Ray, which had never been to the temple, hadn't taken his endowment out, were in the temple with us that day. And I remember Mother getting all our temple clothes ready, and the temple clothes ready for those that lived away, that came in to go with us through the temple. Well, we got up real early in the morning, and everything was going along so beautifully, and Earl didn't come, and Mother and Dad said, well, I guess we'd better go. They'll be along soon. We had borrowed Uncle Paul's, or Earl's brother Paul's, car to go down to Salt Lake Temple. And I remember I had packed my things so neatly and nice in my own suitcase. And finally, when Earl did arrive, he said, well, I take 2 suitcases. We'll put all your things in with mine. And I didn't like that idea very well, because I'd taken quite a bit of time to get mine ready. But he was the boss right from the start, and my things went in his suitcase. Well, we dilly-dallied on the way down to the temple, and Paul had cautioned Earl not to drive too fast, and so we certainly didn't drive too fast. When we got to the temple, Mother came, met us at the temple gate, and I remember she took hold of my arm and almost shook me. She says, where have you kids been? And we really thought we had gone along just fine, but all the family were there waiting for us, and they had called our name a couple of times. It's about like you, Connie. Do you remember you
That's right.
do about that same thing?
Just about didn't make it.
Yeah, just about didn't make it, but yours was a snowstorm, but ours was just being kind to Paul and driving slow in his car. But I can remember so well how worried Mother was, because we were really late.
Who performed your marriage ceremony? Can you remember?
George Richards performed our marriage ceremony. He was a worker he was in the presidency of the temple at that time. But we had, it was a happy memory because all of my family were with us that day. We had a wonderful honeymoon. We stayed all night in the New House Hotel in Salt Lake, and our room was right by the elevator, and the elevator went up and down and up and down and up and down all night, and it was squeaky. Well, we had, after we got going back a bit about the honeymoon, after we got through the session in the temple, we left for our honeymoon, and it was up to Fort Douglas in Salt Lake. We drove up there in Paul's car, driving slow again, and drove around Fort Douglas. That was our honeymoon trip, and we came back to the New House Hotel and stayed overnight by the noisy elevator. The next morning we came home and we stopped on the way and bought our first groceries and a broom to sweep the house. Our home was in the shop, and we spent our first year in the shop, and it was the most beautiful little apartment in the world, and we had papered it and painted it together before we were married. and went in and bought our furniture. I can remember when our furniture was delivered. I was working up to Lee Barker's store for 50 cents a day, and it had been slow being delivered, so part of our furniture, and we had already started to live in the shop, but we had bought this one set from the Sterling Furniture Company in Ogden. They stopped at the store and asked where E.B. Cragun lived. And I thought, and I said, I don't know anybody in the town whose name was E.B. Cragun. And they said, well, we'll go on down the road and see if we can find it. And when they came back, they couldn't resist coming into the store again and bawling me out because E.B. Cragun happened to be Earl Budge Cragun, and it was my own furniture that was being delivered.
Oh dear.
So it was fun.
Did you have a wedding reception?
Those days we didn't have wedding receptions in the church. The family usually had a party and invited the close relatives, and that's what we did. And it was sort of a trousseau along with the reception. And I can remember Thelma and Reuben had just been married they'd been married in the spring, and we were married in the fall. And she had a lovely trousseau, and I had a lovely trousseau. And Thelma said to me, why don't you use my trousseau too and put it up, because it looks so much more, and we just as well put mine up too. And believe it or not, after working so hard on my own, and it was lovely, we put a lot of Thelma's up too.
Mother, honestly.
Well, it was, it shows how very kind Thelma was and loving to want to share.
Were you able to keep it?
Oh no, it all had to go back in her cedar chest. But we've laughed about it a lot of times.
Oh dear.
But our reception was just for the family, and they dropped in. We served refreshments. And our shower was kind of fun. In those days, we would give our friends and our girlfriends showers, but the guest list always included the fellows too, and they'd come along, and we had to sit in the middle of the floor of the room where we all were, and they'd all be sitting around us, and we'd sit on the floor and open our gifts. But the fellows were there right along with the girls, and it was a lot of fun.
That was fun.
It was fun. Lots of fun. Well,
Can you tell me about some of your early memories as a young married couple? Were you anticipating children right away, or tell us about the birth of your first child?
When we talk about our first child, it brings sad memories too. My mother passed away, bless her heart, 3 months before my Molly Ann, our first baby, was born. Mother had a stroke, and she was, at the time she had her stroke, she was at Flora's home trying to help her get ready to go into the hospital to have her David, which was born the night Mother had her stroke. And I can remember Dad coming out to the shop where we lived, and he had heard that Mother wasn't, that something had happened to Mother up to Flora's. Well, while he was there, Paul came in and he said that he was leaving to take Flora to the hospital, but Mother had taken ill, and she was up to still at Flora's and Paul's. We immediately got ready and went up because we had planned to tend the children while Flora went in to have her baby, and Mother had had this terrible stroke. We brought her back home, and she died within 10 days. She had 3 strokes, one right after the other. But she seemed like she rallied in between times, and her constant worry was me having my first baby. And Mother had been ill and had returned from the Hawaiian Islands with Dad the year or 2 before that, and she had sciatic rheumatism, and I had had to quit college and come home and take care of Mother. She was in such terrible pain. And when I got pregnant, she said, "Oh, I'm going to repay you for all that you have done for me while I was ill. I'm just going to do everything for you when you have this baby." We went to town and shopped the day before she had her stroke. And so she was worried about me, and when the doctor would come out to see her, she'd say, tell him she was worried about me and my baby. And he assured her, Molly, he said, we will take care of Millie and her baby. So when I think of my first baby, I think of Mother, because bless her heart, she was so concerned. But we went home to live after Mother passed away. Went home to stay and live with Dad. And 3 months later, Molly was born. A beautiful, healthy little baby girl. My first baby experience of having a child in the hospital was indeed one to remember, because I was in labor 48 hours.
Oh, boy.
And before Molly finally arrived. And Dad, bless his heart, showing the kindness he really had for we kids. He came to see me 3 times in the labor rooms because he was so worried about me. We went into the hospital on Friday evening, and Molly Ann wasn't born until around 4:30, 5 o'clock Sunday evening. So we had lots of memories about Molly, bless her. But she was a beautiful baby. We called her our doll baby. The song was popular at that time. It was Janet Gaynor's show, and the song was just Baby and Me, and I can't remember the name. Molly Makes Three, and that was our theme song with Molly. Earl would always sing, and she was just our doll baby. The first of my 7 wonderful children. Oh, Molly Ann was born on January the 15th, 1933. And she was named after her 2 grandmothers. Molly, and the nickname of my mother, Mary, whose name was Mary, but they always called her Molly, so we named Molly after her grandmother, Reese, and Anne after her grandmother, Cragun, whose name was Annie. 2 years later, our joy was doubled, and our little auburn-haired baby, Janet, came to bless our home on July the 10th, 1934. She was also loved by her grandfather, because as I have told you, we had gone home to live in the storybook house on the hill again with Dad after Mother passed away. These two little girls seemed to fill his lonely days. For 2.5 years, Earl and I and our two little girls spent wonderful days listening to the stories and experiences told by my intelligent, well-read, loving father. Then again, sadness came into our lives and into the storybook home on the hill. My soul-loved, wonderful father, who had never ceased pining the passing of my mother, seemed to give up the long battle for health, and that he had fought so bravely through his many long years. And he passed away. He was called home on the 17th of the year 1936. A wonderful, loving father who had taught us so many, many things and set the wonderful example to his children, left the storybook house on the hill. He, so typical of his life lessons taught to us, and we all shared this helping for them. And as he left us, his last words to us was "together," which has been motto of all his family from that time and up until this very time.
What did you do, Mom, after Grandpa Reeves passed away? Did you decide to stay there in the storybook home on the hill? Or did you and Daddy make plans maybe of building another home of your own?
Yes, this brings up a new chapter in my life. Decisions were made, plans. Going back just a little before Father died, when Thelma and Reuben were married, the big home was remodeled and 2 apartments were made. Reuben and Thelma moved into the apartment on the east side of the house, sharing part of the upstairs bedrooms, and Mother and Dad lived on the other side of the house, on the west side. But after Mother had passed away and we came home to live, Earl and I, we joined him on the west side of the house. Before Father passed away, he had, being a great thinker, was wondering just what should take place with Reuben on one side of the house and Earl and I on the other. So he called us together, and in his sweet way we tried to make plans. It was decided that Reuben, being the oldest son, should have the privilege of living in the big home. And of course, then plans began to form of what Earl and I should do. We had thought of someday buying land from Dad Cragun and moving up there close to he and Mom Cragun. So my father thought this would be a good plan, and we decided that we would build a basement house, a basement home. And bless Dad's heart, he gave us $800 towards this basement home. And a little while before he passed away, we did move into our basement home, living with Dad until it was completed. Then our new chapter began. We were so happy in our new home. It seemed to bring with it the closeness and the love that Father and Mother's big home had given to us. And we enjoyed our 2 little girls. At this time, Janet was 18 months old, and Molly was a little mother to her, taking care of her. Not too long after we moved into the basement house, we were very thrilled when we found out that our Heavenly Father was going to send us another little precious spirit for us to take care of in our home. A beautiful little baby girl, another girl, was born to us, and we named her Helen. She was born October the 28th, 1937. Yes, she was another little redhead, just like Janet, only her eyes were blue and Janet's were brown. She took her place with her other sisters and was loved very much. In fact, we were having so much fun with our 3 little girls that we decided maybe Heavenly Father would send us another little girl, which He did. And we were so thrilled and happy once more in our little basement home. Norma Ray was our little girl that came from heaven to bless our home, and she was born March the 4th, 1937. They grew and loved each other, and we had a real togetherness like my father had desired that we would have in all of our homes. I can remember such a lot of fun things that took place then with our 4 little girls. They were called the 4 Little Relief Society Sisters. Why? Because I was president of the Relief Society at that time. And all the sisters seemed to accept them and love them as they came into our family. It was quite an interesting thing that to live that close to the Relief Society building, because the Relief Society building was it was called and the Relief Society building. We had meetings there, and it was so much fun to be able to be that close to Relief Society. I can remember we were as poor as church mice at that time, and I was always very careful to see that my clothes were off the clothesline on Tuesday, the Relief Society meeting day, because the clothesline was right outside the Relief Society's back window. Well, as I said, we were very, very poor. The clothes were clean, but they had lots of patches on them, and I was very careful to see that the clothes were off the clothesline for Relief Society Day. We had lots of fun there with Relief Society's clothes. I can remember the refreshments that we used to make in our little kitchen and take over already, and just like they were in another room, and serve them to the sisters there. Well, we would, even though we were, you might say, had nothing but the love of our children as far as money went, we were really struggling. But we decided that we owed it to ourselves that every Saturday evening we should have an evening out